top 5 of 2025. Look, as I was looking for what to do, what to talk about within this, because again, I wanted to do the top 5 of 2025. There are quite a good bit of stories for DC this year. Believe it or not, obviously there's the ones that we're going to talk about here, but there are some other ones that I forgot about. So obviously, if I miss something, if I don't mention something that you think should be in this, throw it in the chat. Tell me why you think it should be part of it. All that kind of stuff. I want to hear from you, absolutely. But this is what I think are the 5 most important things, story-wise, when it comes to DC in 2025. So number 1, I am going to say, or number 5, we'll go 5 to 1. The DC fan war. Now, this is a really interesting one because it's not really like a story that people are reporting on per se, but it is out there. And the reason why this is so big is because this fandom war is just, it's building and it's building and it's building and it's getting ridiculous. Whether it's James Gunn, who is calling out the ridiculous claims or the stupid remarks from people online, or even if it's the Snyder Bros trying to claim that, the SnyderVerse is far superior than the DCU, whatever it is. This war has really blown up this year. And I sit back and I say, it's a little frustrating. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm above this because I 100% have actually been part of it. I have been part of the infighting of the fandom. But it is something that is kind of frustrating to me because we're at a time in DC, and you're going to see with these top 5 or these other 4 stories specifically, this is a time that we as DC fans should all be celebrating, because DC is at a place that I don't think we've ever seen in decades, if ever. So to sit here and have this fighting because, this person doesn't like James Gunn, or this person wants the SnyderVerse back, or this person hates the DCU, or this person wants this, it's kind of like, why? Like, what's the point of it? There's no point. You then have Zack Snyder on Instagram posting all his stuff, and then you have, I think it was Variety or the Hollywood Reporter picking up that and starting to talk about it. You have the con men like Cosmic Book News, posting constantly about all this crap and pushing their agendas. You have all of those other YouTubers who I'm not going to name, but you know who I'm talking about, who post every single day their gun hate, their wallets closed, their ridiculous just bull crap. But I sit back and I say, why? Because if we were all fans of DC, if we were truly fans, all of us truly fans and excited about DC, we wouldn't be fighting with each other. Like, I get it. Not everybody's going to like what comes out. Like, I'm not a big fan of the DC KO series. I'm not a big fan of this. I'm like, okay, you don't like everything, but there's always going to be something there that's going to be for you at some point. So I like the absolute Batman stuff. I like the what's it called? The Matt Fraction Batman stuff. That's good. I like the Superman run that's going on in comics. That's great. But then you take a look at the films and it's kind of like, hey, I like what's going on. Some people don't. But we've had 3 projects. Sit back, relax. Something's going to come out that you will enjoy at some point. But everybody just has to fight and be at each other's necks, and it's just kind of crazy to me. So to me, that's number 5 on one of the big stories of the year when it comes to DC. Next up, the Batman Part 2 is finally happening. Look, this movie's supposed to be canceled, right? Right? No. Look, I'll admit, I was told that, what was it, 2 Octobers ago or something like that this movie was going to be canceled. The information was wrong. Maybe it wasn't wrong. Maybe that was the plan, but things came about and they were able to move forward. Regardless, whatever it was, this movie is finally happening. And this is a huge story for multiple reasons. One, fans, believe it or not, love this story. Love what Matt Reeves is doing with Batman. So they're excited about that. Two, it proves that James Gunn isn't above giving fans what they want. When people sit there and say, oh, James Gunn is going to cancel it, James Gunn is going to sabotage it, James Gunn this, James Gunn that. No, that's not what's going on. There were some issues in the background. There were delays. There were some personal issues that Matt Reeves was taking care of and was dealing with. And because of that, my chair keeps rolling away. But because of that, yes, it was looking more and more likely that this film may not happen. But finally, it was revealed. It's coming. It's happening. And production is just around the corner. And so much so that they're in the middle of casting the extra characters that they didn't have before. These new characters that they need for the movie, they're casting them right now. Production is going to start in a few months. It's coming. So those of you who are excited about Batman Part 2, excited about it, this was a huge news story because it solidifies many things. It's coming. James Gunn's not above making sure that what people want gets made. They're not above artistic integrity. And guess what? They're sticking to that Elseworlds idea as well. So look, this was big news. This was great. And it's great to see. Next up, the Absolute Comics massive success. DC Comics has been on an amazing, impressive run over the last couple years here. I don't know if many of you read the comics, but this is huge news when it comes to DC overall because of how big and important and crazy the success has been with the comics. And it kind of all started with that All-In event that pretty much set everything off. What was it? Was it October of 2024? Something like that, around October 2024, something. Maybe a little before that, the comics were doing well. But that All-In event really kind of solidified like this new era, per se, of DC Comics. It launched the Absolute Universe. There's now the DCKO universe. And it kind of brought everything back to #1 issues. It brought Batman back to #1 and a bunch of other things back to #1. So because of that, people were like, hey, we can jump in, we can get on board. Now this typically happens. Like when there's an event that brings comics to, like, you get those #1s, you're going to see an influx. You're going to see people really diving in and getting into the comics again and like, oh, I'm going to jump in here. Like I remember when Rebirth happened. Like I was buying every comic for probably a good 6 or 7 months that was coming out. Like I had a stack of Rebirth comics like crazy because I was just like, oh, I got to read them. But then I started to fall off, because after so long, you just kind of like, I don't want these ones. I don't like these ones. I'm not interested in that. I'm not invested in that. And eventually you just kind of fall out of them. But something weird's happening here because this wasn't like an event like a Rebirth or like a New 52. This was a continuation. Like a lot of the stories that were going on prior to the All-In event are still going on. They just kind of reset everything slightly, and everything that was going on before still happened, but it was just like, hey, this is #1. So a lot of the fans that were invested in what was going on prior are still invested now, as well as pulling in a lot of new fans, a lot of new audience into it. And that was huge. That was a huge, huge get. So the normal runs, your regular runs for DC are doing great. But the Absolute comic line by Scott Snyder has been exploding, blowing up. I think Batman #1 has been, 5 reprints now? 6 reprints? I don't know. It's crazy how many reprints. I think Absolute Batman #2 has gone on to have 3 reprints. Batman #4, I don't know. Like the reprints are nuts. But again, you then have, I think Absolute Wonder Woman ended up winning comic book of the year award or something like that. Like this Absolute line is incredible. Because of that, we're seeing this shift in the comic realm. Like there's excitement, there's true excitement for comics again, which is absolutely amazing and exciting when it comes to DC. I would sit there and say, oh, it's all Jim Lee, because Jim Lee is absolutely a big part of it. But you take a look at the creatives that he has underneath of him. But not just that. What some people don't realize is James Gunn and Peter Safran have a lot to do with that as well. Because when you start to get things excited, when you get people excited about movies, when you get people excited about the brand as a whole, the brand as a whole is going to be successful. It's going to see an influx. And that's sort of what's happening. When they announced Superman, when they started showing off Superman, you started to see comics go off, jump off the shelves for what has inspired these stories. Same with Supergirl and things like that. So they're doing things hand in hand now with DC Studios, DC Comics, and everything. You're also seeing DC Comics kind of show up in really weird places that you don't typically see them. They're not just sticking to the idea of, hey, we're going to put them in a comic book shop and hope for the best. No, they're like, comic book shops are dying. They're a dying breed. Like, again, I say this all the time. My closest comic book shop's almost an hour away. It's like 45, 40, 50 minutes away, something like that. It's actually right next to the closest movie theater to me. So that's my closest comic book shop. So if I want to buy a physical comic book and really like get it on day one, walk into the store and get it, I have to drive 45 to 50 minutes away. However, what DC started to do is they're like, you know what, let's start putting them in Walmarts. Let's put them in supermarkets. Let's put them here. Let's put them there. And putting them in these crazy places, kind of like what they did in the 90s. Marvel used to be really big at doing this in the 90s. Throwing them in supermarkets and things like that. That's what DC's doing now. And it's really pumping up the output. And that's a big reason why it's helping. Not to mention that the stories are damn good. They are really good right now. But yeah, that's my number three. So there you have it. Number 2, Supergirl teaser. I debated putting this one on here because, let's be honest, it kind of came and went. But there is still a level of excitement for Supergirl. Because Supergirl is going to be the follow-up to one of the best superhero films in years, Superman, and the best superhero movie of 2025. Or I won't say the best, but the number 1 superhero movie of 2025. And that's important. And I think that what the teaser did was it showcased a lot of cool things. It showcased that this is a cosmic adventure, that it's going to be something that's different than Superman, but still part of the same universe. And that's important. And I think it is important to put that, hey, this story was big. It's big enough because it's going to continue. I mean, this story is going to continue into 2026 up until its release. And I think that's kind of why it's important to add this into it, because yeah, it's an important aspect of it. But the number 1 big story of the year, Superman releases and the DCU officially begins. Now, we know Superman released in July 2025, but it didn't just release, it announced itself. And not just itself, it announced the DCU. It landed with huge applause, with critical praise, with audience praise. People love this movie. Let's not forget that it also made well over $600 million. I mean, it made $617 million at the box office, becoming the number 1 superhero film via the box office in 2025. In a year where, well, superhero genre has been struggling for the past few years, actually, I should say. So that's huge. But then it did well on streaming platforms. It did well on digital. And people still talk about it today. I mean, you go on X, you go on social media, people are still talking about Superman. And it's funny because I sit here and I think about the 2013, 14, 15, 16, that era of DC. And Man of Steel. Everybody talks about Man of Steel. Everybody talked about Man of Steel back then. I remember listening to the podcast back then and things like that. And there was all this talk about, Man of Steel, it was Man of Mopin, Man of Hobo Superman, and things like that. I mean, they made jokes about it all the time. But it stayed in the conversation. constantly. Man of Steel was always in the conversation. You had that fighting back and forth, people who loved it, people who didn't love it. Now, granted, today, 2025, we're seeing similar things. We're seeing people who complain about Superman. So yeah, it's sticking around. It's staying in the conversation. But I see that the complaints are not as loud when it comes to Superman as it was back in 2014, 2013, 2016 for Superman, or for Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. You've got that small group of people that are complaining about it. Mostly everybody else is just like, hey, that was a really fun movie. I enjoyed it, that kind of stuff. And it's funny because the ones who hate it the most, the ones who want it to die the most, are the ones who continue to keep the talk alive about it. I mean, I'll allow them to, whatever, let them talk about it all they want, but it's just funny to me. It really is. But let's not stop there with Superman, because with that success, with that hype, with the conversation still going on, still moving forward, still going, DC Studios announced Man of Tomorrow, which is the direct follow-up to Superman, going into production this coming April, releasing July of 2027. That's all kind of encapsulated in one story there, because without the success of Superman, we don't get Man of Tomorrow. Without how well Superman did, we don't get Man of Tomorrow. And I think that's where some people don't quite keep everything like straight. They're kind of just like, oh, they're just doing Man of Tomorrow because they have to, and blah blah blah. No, Superman wasn't a success. If it was not a success, they would not be doing Man of Tomorrow. They probably would have rushed a Batman movie. But Superman was successful enough, and they said, look, we're going to do Man of Tomorrow. So, those to me are my 5 big stories for DC. You can go read all about it, slavsfreetalk.com. You can check them out there. They're great. Check them out. Talk about it. Share this around. Show everybody, because I think, for me, those are the big stories of DC this year. But then again, there were stories like... what was it? V for Vendetta getting, the television show? That was a big story. The Clayface stuff, the casting news around Brainiac, obviously. I mean, there's so many other news stories that popped up. You could even talk about the small extension of Gunn and Safran. That kind of stuff is important, but I think these are the big ones right here. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.